If we remove God from the picture, isn't it just moral chaos?
In fact, it's the opposite. Today, as researchers, we will show you, based on Richard Dawkins' perspective, that life might actually be healthier without God. According to natural selection, we have evolved into empathetic, cooperative, and social beings, and we can observe that even infants without any religious instruction show kindness, affection, and a willingness to help one another. And similarly, we have observed that animals like chimpanzees, dolphins, and elephants also display altruistic behaviors. There are people who live conscientiously without holding any particular faith, and such people are very common in countries like Sweden and Norway. These countries and societies have demonstrated greater safety and higher ethical standards.
But without divine punishment, what's to stop people from doing evil?
If your only reason for being good is fear of punishment, then you are not a good person. You are simply afraid of an invisible policeman. And if your only reason for not violating others' rights is your religious faith, I honestly wouldn't want to interact with someone like that at all. True morality comes from within, not from outside.
Aren't atheists responsible for history's worst atrocities, like Stalin or Mao?
One of the greatest historical fallacies is the religion associated with these people. These people would talk about God in some situations, yet in some of their behaviors we saw signs of godlessness. These individuals committed such crimes solely because of all the messianic zeal they possessed. And on the other hand, we see that many of the crimes in history have been committed with religious motivations, such as the Crusades, as well as the tortures carried out during the Inquisition, and the wars between Muslims and Jews, including, in recent days, the conflict between Iran and Israel, all of which are part of these same motivations. And likewise, the laws being enforced in some religious cities against homosexuals, all of these are crimes that are currently being committed with religious motivations. So why do we only see that part of the issue?
So where does morality actually come from then?
We evolved from ancestors who lived in very small communities, and for survival we needed cooperation, empathy, support from relatives, and effective ways to deal with betrayal. Next, I'll explain 5 evolutionary paths that have shaped morality as we know it today. 1. Kin altruism, helping relatives because we share common genes. 2. Reciprocal exchange. I help you today so you'll help me tomorrow. 3. Reputation and prestige preview, being good to be liked by the group. 4. Social imitation, modeling for survival and the human sense that others are currently doing the right thing. And that's the 4th reason. 5. Cultural advancement. A concrete example is that in a secular society where specific cultural values like justice and honesty exist, it functions very well, even better than a religious society.
Can we trust the Bible or Quran as moral guides in the 21st century?
Not at all. I want to show you with plenty of examples that these books are full of violent, anti-women, anti-science, and anti-freedom commands. The first example comes from the book of Judges, chapter 19, where a man from the tribe of Levi is hosting a guest, and the townspeople demand to have sexual relations with his guest. He sends out the woman, and she is abused until morning and dies from the pain at the doorstep. The Bible recounts this story without any condemnation. The second example is Lot, who is described as a righteous man in the Bible. When the people of Sodom come to his house, he offers them his virgin daughter and tells them not to harm his guest. Even worse, we read that this man later gets drunk in a cave and sleeps with his own daughters. And the Bible recounts this story without any moral lesson or criticism. In the book of Deuteronomy, if a girl is not a virgin on her wedding night, she must be stoned to death. And similarly, in the story of Abraham and Isaac, we see that God asked a father to sacrifice his own son. Although this particular act was ultimately stopped and prevented, we can clearly see that it undeniably fosters an immoral, command-driven, and deeply problematic mindset. A commander named Jephthah makes a vow that if he wins the war, he will sacrifice to God the first person who enters his house after the battle. And we see that it was his daughter who first opened the door to congratulate her father, and he sacrificed his daughter for his beliefs and religious convictions. And we see how this drives people to sacrifice their children out of religious commitment, without any divine condemnation. All of this is a manipulation of thoughts and minds. When Moses goes up the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments, we witness the people asking Aaron for a god, and Aaron presents them with a golden calf as their god. And when Moses returns, we see that thousands of people are killed by the armies of Israel, which shows how God ordered the killing of thousands because of the wrong kind of worship. Isn't this a mental deviation? And there are other examples, such as the execution of an adulterous woman, as well as the endorsement of slavery and the massacre of other nations, which are mentioned several times in the Old Testament, and the death penalty for homosexuality. If someone were to enforce these laws today, would they be considered a criminal or a saint? If someone today wanted to live according to the morals of the Bible, they would have to commit crimes, atrocities, murder, and similar acts. And if we don't do these things, it means our modern morality is superior to the morality of the Bible. And how can we accept that a book which treats the family unit with such disregard can be considered a book of morality?
But hasn't religion inspired great moral reforms too?
Reforms have been carried out by humans, not by religion itself. Now, these people could have been religious or non-religious individuals. After all, when these reforms were taking place, there may have been some religious people who opposed such changes. But as for religion itself, it has defended slavery for centuries. When a positive moral change happens, religion follows behind it, doesn't lead the way.
Then what shapes morality today, if not religion?
Today's morality is not influenced by religion. It's influenced by the spirit of the times, or the Zeitgeist. Pay attention to the meaning of what I'm saying. That is, morality is gradually evolving and improving over time. Today's morality is the result of science, media, dialogue, and so on. 50 years ago, homosexuality was a crime, but today it is accepted. There was a time when women didn't have the right to vote, but now they are political leaders. These very changes were initially rejected by religious people, and only later did they follow along. Today we can point to people from past centuries who in their own time were considered moral and enlightened individuals. But when we read what they said, we see that by the standards of today's moralists and intellectuals, they are far behind. For example, Abraham, an enlightened thinker who opposed slavery, often spoke about black people and their supposed lower status, and even Darwin, who was an even more prominent figure in his time, used many words in his speeches that contained racial discrimination. There are plenty of examples like this. To save your time, I'll list some of them for you in the description. Be sure to take a look. What matters is that morality is constantly evolving and changing, and it's possible that 200 years from now we might be considered immoral people.
So what's the danger of sticking to ancient scriptures?
The danger is that it can hinder moral progress. When someone says, I only look to the holy book, they're actually justifying gender discrimination, accepting harsh punishments, and rejecting modern rights. Morality should be dynamic, not fossilized. We can and should be moral without God. Not because we have to, but because we are human. In this video, we thoroughly examine that human morality does not originate from religion or faith, but rather from the Zeitgeist or the spirit of the times, which shows that human morality is constantly growing and evolving. And these findings are presented in Richard Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, in chapters 6 and 7.
Thank you very much for this research. I gained a lot of new information today, and I want to suggest that you tell us a little about Islam and its miracles in the next video. I have a lot of questions about it, and also these days there is talk about Ashura and Muharram in Islam, which I want to know a little about. I also wish you, my audience, peace and success. Until the next video.
If you're interested in this research, be sure to subscribe to our channel, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Until the next video, goodbye!